Or we should just dab.
Just do a dab for no reason. We're rolling it. Hi, I'm Sanjay.
I'm Ria. Here is where we chat all things life, culture, and faith in Jesus. Welcome to Spill the Chai.
We've been talking a bit about our upbringing, and in particular, how that has shaped our kind of faith in Jesus, but the cost of some of the things in our family history.
Yeah.
Like, what was that like for you, choosing to be a Christian when all of your family are not?
Yeah, it was confusing. I definitely just didn't know that you could be anything other than what you were born into.
Yeah.
I remember at school when you used to be able to do like show and tell, I'd bring in my Hindu gods and I'd tell all the kids in my class that if they like didn't believe in these things, that they were going to go to hell. Like,
Oh, wow. You were an evangelist.
For the Hindus. Very, very much was involved, part of the youth group, and it was a huge part of my identity, right? Like I went to the temple 7 days a week, went to the youth groups, went to the summer camps every year. It was a big part of what connected me to my grandma. I mean, she was proud of me when I was doing Hindu things. And then I started to go along to the church at the end of my road, now my home church, where they ran a once a week youth club, very evangelistic. And I went along and brought loads of my friends with me because it was just like a fun, free thing to do on a Wednesday night. And slowly started to hear about Jesus, but again, didn't really connect Jesus with myself because I was Asian and I didn't know anyone that was Asian that was a Christian, and maybe one or two people that were older at my home church. But again, it wasn't really relevant to me. And then I came to Naujavan. Origin of this hoodie. I found this in my cupboard. Haven't worn this in years, and the smell. Can attest to that, but
I think we made those in I want to say 2013, because that's when we released the Unique United EP.
I'm pretty sure that's when I got this. It is over 10 years old, and I still own it. So come on, loyal.
So like when that happened, because I know for you there were some serious costs to coming to faith in Jesus, and there were also some things that happened that which we don't have to go into all the detail, but like whatever you feel comfortable talking about. I
mean, my family when I was about 10 years old kind of just fell apart. My parents split up, and my middle sister, I have two sisters, my middle sister passed away, and I remember being like, the only thing I've got left is my faith. And even then, because of various reputation and how people perceived my family after choices my dad had made, people just rejected us and had wanted no part. I remember people at youth group telling me that their mum said that they couldn't sit next to me because I was going to be a bad influence on them because of choices my dad had made. And I remember
as in like your family were somehow cursed, or
kind of, or like I was my father's daughter, so I was going to turn out to be just like him. So they needed to avoid me like the plague. And I was 10 years old and I had done nothing wrong. And so I actually stopped going to the temple after that. I was just so heartbroken and had lost everything I had known. And I remember walking home from my grandma's house on a Sunday and walking past my home church, and someone from youth group invited me in, and I went every Sunday, and I didn't really understand what was going on. But something of the love of Jesus just kept kind of creeping in. And having been along to Naujavan, kind of understood that I could be Asian and love Jesus, and kind of that shift for me was really important.
Right.
But when I became a Christian, it was on my sister's first death anniversary, and we'd gone to like this temple to do this like ritual that you do on the first death anniversary. And I remember sat there and just thinking, what the heck am I doing here? Like, I feel no peace, and I felt desperate to get to church. And the second I arrived at church, I remember just this wash of God's peace over me. And don't remember what the sermon was about that day. Don't know. I don't know, but something over time of God showing up for me through those various people, and then kind of the rejection of the Hindu community. I decided to give my life to Jesus, but I didn't tell anyone for a whole year because I was like, I don't know how to tell people this. Like, it felt like a shameful secret that I was hiding until I went to my friend's baptism, and he shared this whole story, and his whole friends and family came, and he shared the story of why he wanted to get baptized. And I remember sitting there thinking, I really want to get baptized. It sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah.
And I went to my pastor and I was like, I'd like to get baptized. And he was like, we're not going to do it without your mum knowing. And I was so mad at him. So I was like, how dare you? Like, this is just let me just do it in secret, get it over with. And really, I mean, Matt is wonderful, but he understood the culture that he lived in, right? He was like, if I do this, I'm going to lose my mum. She's going to distance herself from them, and she'll never be saved, right? Because she just, not that it's dependent on them, but it was going to cause a big barrier.
It would be an unnecessary route to take.
Yeah.
Is what he...
Yeah. And so, reluctantly, I obviously didn't understand any of that at that age.
Yeah.
But I remember sitting with them in the back room of my church, and they had told my mum I'd become a Christian and I wanted to be baptized and what that meant to me.
So they told your mum?
Yeah, well, I was there too.
Yeah.
And because I was like, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't know how to...
Because you were very young, really.
Approach this. Yeah, I was 12, 13.
Yeah.
And I remember... my mum was fuming. And your mum's angry with you at home, but not really in front of other people. Do you know
Gujarati mums especially.
Well, do you know when your mum's like, just wait till you get home? That could mean nothing, or it could mean death. You didn't know which one it was, right? And but this time she blew up in front of other people, and I was like, gosh, this is going to be bad, right? And she kind of just said, in no uncertain terms, that I was dead to her, and she never wanted to speak to me again. And I was like, oh man, what have I done?
So it clearly landed the change that had happened.
Well, yeah. And I don't know whether she'd noticed small changes of the spirit. I don't know. But I had, my parents had split up. My mum was the only one I had left in my household. And she was now done with me. And I just remember being so angry and frustrated because I was like, Lord, you want me to get baptized. Why are you not allowing it to happen? Why is this costing so much? I remember feeling really embarrassed when my wider family found out, and felt really insecure and just I had just done something really wrong and I felt really ashamed. I'd committed this grave sin against my family. And I think, conversion is a sensitive topic in our family, which I didn't know until much, much, much later. So understandably, it was just really difficult and really hard. And again, there's associations with becoming a Christian because they were like, you're going to just become Western. And this association that they're going to lose me, right? The only time a family loses their daughter is when she gets married.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But they'd lost me already and I wasn't married.
Okay, just hover on that for a sec. So the association with becoming a Christian, there's a loss kind of religiously.
Yeah.
Because you came from this Hindu home, but there's also this cultural loss. What are some of the conceptions for, say, a South Asian person looking at Western culture from that angle and going, well, Christianity and Western culture are basically the same thing. I think that's the mindset, isn't it? That's where the starting point is. And what is that image?
Yeah. I think we talked a little bit last time about the value of marriage and the value of relationships. And I think in a lot of Western culture and in a lot of Western TV, you see things that don't often reflect value in marriage or relationships or faithfulness.
That
and things
Asian culture upholds and says, this is good, this is noble, this is healthy.
Ironically, which was the downfall of my parents' marriage, right?
Yeah.
When you're
Ironies.
well...
Yeah.
But we love to be hypocrites, don't we? So,
the human condition.
Yep.
That's not just for South Asians, is it? It's for all of us, but yeah.
Or just that I think what's really hard is that being Hindu and being Indian are so tied together. There's a lot of things that are cultural and a lot of things that, even now, I'm not sure I could differentiate everything that was cultural and everything that was religious.
No, because they are intertwined in the way that they're designed.
Yeah.
I think that's the interesting thing that I've noticed gets portrayed. So from a more traditional South Asian perspective, when you think of being a Christian, or the idea of Christianity is Westernness.
Yeah.
And so I've had friends in this context, family in this context, which have looked at Western society in the majority, very secular.
Yes.
Marriages don't last. A lot of drunkenness, a lot of wayward living, or whatever you want to call it. And there's this context that equates to Christianity.
Yeah.
And so someone becoming a Christian means someone having loose morals, someone not being very responsible, living a life of kind of sin, I guess. And that is, for a traditional Asian mindset anyway.
Yeah. So what's really funny is when I got engaged to Sean, who from his name
is not a South Asian.
Is not a South Asian. No, he is from Reading. As white as they come. But I remember having a conversation with my grandma about it, and didn't tell her at all that I was dating anyone, because I remember she kept showing me boys on her iPad. I don't know where she got them from, and kept showing, well, probably, and was like, after you finish your degree, like, we'll get you married off. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is awful. But like told her that we were engaged, because that was like, I'm serious. This isn't just I've got a boyfriend. And I remember she questioned me quite a lot. And some of the things she asked me was like, do you guys live together? And I was like, no. And she was like,
that's seen as a Western approach to relationships.
She was like, have you slept together yet? And I was like, oh, this is awful talking to my grandma about this. But I was like, no.
Yeah. And
she was like, does he come from a good family? I was like, absolutely. His parents are wonderful. Like, does he have a good job? Like, asked me all these questions. And everything that she could throw against Sean, he stood up against, not because of who he was or his culture or anything, but because of Christ in him. And I loved that for my grandma. That was something of a comfort to her, that I had not married someone she would necessarily approve of. But our relationship stood up to a standard that she held personally, that is very Asian.
But came from Christian convictions.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's the interesting thing to kind of wrestle with sometimes, isn't it? Because we've got family that are, or kind of an outside view, that there's this kind of very stereotypical view of what Christianity might be, which is conflated with the culture. Or the other end of it is that very sort of wooden caricature of kind of very stiff 1950s Christianity or whatever it might be. I remember I was telling some friends of mine that aren't Christians but are Asians about kind of church life, and they couldn't get in their head kind of a modern version of, because they'd never been to church before, of what it was like. And for them it was all suits and pews and very traditional in terms of what might have been shown on a Vicar Dibley or something, some kind of
excellent show,
some kind of traditional westernized version. And yet actually the space that I was living in was in sort of this total unknown, uncommunicated place where it isn't wayward Western culture, and it isn't wooden kind of old school traditional media caricatures of Christianity. It's actually this life-giving thing that sits somewhere in between all of it, and is grounded not by culture but by faith in Jesus as the kind of overall sort of lens. So okay, so you were in that space with your mum, maybe looking at you, saying, she's become a Christian. Did your mum think she's been lost to the kind of the world of Britain? Or
I think so. She would pray more when I was in the room, like kind of like waiting for me to come in the room, and then kind of like showing her holiness and praying to the idols in our house. And I just remember being like, oh man, like this is never gonna happen. And then a couple months later, I remember being walked home, even though I literally lived down the road, by one of the leaders. And I opened the front door, and my mum was sobbing, and she was putting the Hindu idols that we'd had in my house since before I was born away. And I was like, what is going on? It was so weird. I was like, I don't know what's happening here. And she just turned to us and she said, like, I love Jesus and I want to be baptized. And I was like, what the heck?
How did what happened?
She just had this experience with God, and she can't tell you. She doesn't know. If you ask her.
So in her own, separate from you.
Independent, God was just moving.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, like, I've become a Christian and I've lost everything. And this is really, I'd already lost everything. How could I lose everything even more? And I had, and it became the greatest gift that my mum actually ended up getting baptized on the same day as me. And now is like thriving. I mean, it's been a journey for all of us. Unlearning a lot of things that were like habitual as Asians, and learning a lot of like religiousness, like doing to please God, and just learning grace and forgiveness and like deep love that can't be earned. So I think we've been on a really long journey over the last 15 years on that. But by God's grace, like my younger sister loves the Lord and was baptized recently, and like it was a huge transformation, but it came at a great cost. And over the years has cost us in different ways. Cost us friendships, cost us relationships, cost us like, you know, various other things.
But the whole family now, in that sense, your whole immediate family at least, has come to know the Lord. And are together in that.
I remember someone once said to me, Ria, your family history has changed forever. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, well, Jesus is in it now. Like he's in your family history for generations to come. This family is forever changed. And
Totally
I was
rewired.
like, that's wild. And like, do you know, I have so much hope for my family as a wider family too. Like I have hope for us, and I have hope that God can do immeasurably more than I can ask or imagine. Not because of anything other than the fact that Jesus is in it now. And I'm like, man, I can just continue to be who God made me to be in that. And it's been difficult, like straddling the worlds, like going along to all the temples with my family on Diwali, because I want to be part of the family. I want to do the things they're doing, but you go and you don't pray and you don't bow down. And it's like that uncomfortable tension of like not wanting to be disrespectful and yet knowing that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life.
That's a really difficult line.
I mean,
I think being able to hold the line of what is true and right and still extend relationship, be present for festivals or key moments in life. You know, I think often weddings, funerals, that kind of thing.
I mean, our wedding, you were in that kind of conversation, but I mean, it took so much intentionality to think about how we blended both of our cultures together, and how it wasn't, I didn't want my family to just come and think, oh, she's married an English guy, this is a white Western wedding.
Christianity isn't for me.
Right. Whereas we had scripture in Gujarati, and we had songs in Hindi, and we had cultural elements from Asian weddings in our wedding. And like, I think they were even so shocked that all of our like English friends wanted to wear lengas and kurtas and like that they wanted to eat Indian food, and that like people were dancing, like our bridesmaids and friends did a dance to a Bollywood song, and I don't think any of them were Asian, that did the dance. And I think for them, they were like, it was like an immersive experience of just like, oh, this doesn't have to be separate. And I think that was really important for us. I genuinely, Sean's Indian wedding outfit, he would wear that any day. He loved it. His dad loved it. His dad was like, I need more gold, more sparkles. No, it's like, Phil.
I mean, I think that there's something, because it is different, that thing of being rewired as a family. Like my family's one generation on from yours. In terms of that storyline, because it wasn't, it was my parents who bore the cost of coming to Christ. My dad as a teenager from a Sikh background, a particular sect of Sikhism, and then, you know, was a secret Christian for years, was sneaking out to church. You know, most people are sneaking away from church. Like he was sneaking out to get to church. And as a result of that, he was sharing with his sister, who then also came to faith. When my grandparents found out, that was bad for my dad. In fact, I think they arranged the elders of the Sikh community to come and tell him he'd been brainwashed by these Christians. And he sort of politely listened and ignored it and carried on. he married my mum. So my dad's from a Punjabi background, my mum's from a Gujarati background. She came to faith as well in Jesus from a Hindu background. And again, massive ripple effects, huge cost for them. And I grew up with this question, why would they do, like, why? It cost them so much.
Yeah. What's the point?
Unless this is real
Yeah.
and actually has an impact for now and eternity, they would have been fools to do this because they lost their parents' backing. That's sort of emotional, practical, financial, all of that. They lost relationships that they would have grown up, the community. I suppose this is the thing I wanted to ask about, because community in South Asian culture is such a big deal, isn't it? Like, if you're part of the community, for them, there was so much cost there.
Yeah.
But I'm a product of their sacrifice in some ways, because they were able to hold a line. I don't think it was easy, and maybe at some point we'll get Dad on here to talk about that. But
I think we would be fools not to.
Yeah, but like, there was a holding the line and carving out a future which wasn't their past, so what they had experienced, good and bad. I remember, that was something that particularly Dad wanted to draw a line in the sand about and say, no, we're building something. We are intentionally rewiring our
and not
family.
Away from who we are, but towards it, right? Even more so.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in that very much embraced world of the Christian faith and Asian culture, that I didn't suddenly stop being South Asian.
Yeah.
It was funny because when I went to college, one of the first times I realized the tension between culture and faith, because I largely went to a very Western white school, and it wasn't particularly challenged. But when I went to the college I went to, loads of South Asian young people, and I was the only one who was South Asian and Christian. So there were South Asian Muslim friends, Sikh friends, Hindu friends.
Interesting.
And when they came and had conversations, the question was, "What are you?" And I was like, "I'm a human being, thanks very much." What do you mean, what are you? And it was always this idea of, what do you believe? What's your religion? What category are you in? What pocket can I put you into? And I found myself saying, well, I'm a Christian. And weirdly, I was a Christian, but I was sort of at that age where I was still figuring it out. I was mid-teens. I knew what I believed, but I hadn't really explored. Like, I'd grown up in a Christian environment. And it really forced me to go away and think, well, I've got to read the Bible for myself here. I've got to actually understand who this Jesus is. And anyway, in that context, I think it was funny because as I said Christian, it meant that I didn't really know where I was going to sit in terms of these friendships that I had. I mean, there was literally in the cafeteria tables for the Sikh boys, the Muslim boys, the Hindu boys. Like, there wasn't one for the South Asian Christians. And so trying to find my relationships, saying the word Christian immediately cost me in that context. And I thought, it's costing me and I haven't even realized what I believe. And so it sent me on a bit of a journey to say, well, I understand who Jesus is at a peripheral level. I've grown up in church. I've heard the stories. But when I started reading the Bible for myself, particularly I was reading John's Gospel, I discovered, if this is Jesus, not only is he way more radical than I thought he was, that the Bible says he's still alive and I can know him. And so it was kind of a quiet moment in my room. Jesus, if this is you, I want to follow you. And no lightning bolts in the sky, no magic moment, but just slowly over time, recognizing that conviction that I'm, like I think you said before, I'm someone who is contributing to the sin of the world, not taking from it. I need a solution, and the Savior is the solution. And so for me, there was a certain cost, but it wasn't the cost of my parents. And I live in the grace and in the benefit, I think, of people who've made that choice, a bit like you've made that choice, to stand up. And I guess I'm saying part of that because I'm hoping it'll put a bit of steel in people's spine because I've come across this again and again here at church and in the wider context of Naujavan, where people have experienced an isolation and a loneliness and a scariness about following Jesus, that if they were to tell their families, the cost could be incredibly high for them. And many choose to live more secretively and probably wisely for a time. And when it comes to things like baptism, hold back. but to be obedient to the scriptures and wanting to follow Christ, what you did, actually saying, I need to be baptized here. I need to have the conversation. I'm not saying that's going to be easy, and I'm not saying it's going to come without cost, but as we do that in faith, what God might do could be beyond our expectation and our imagination.
And I think also, I know we talked about it a lot last time, but I think that's part of where the church has to come in. Like, we have to be family together. Like, I needed my, for a season when my aunties and uncles struggled with this idea, which is so understandable. I needed aunties and uncles at my church who got it and loved me.
Yeah.
And, I'm really grateful. My family's wonderful, and they have really come away, and I think have noticed the change in me since Christ has come into my life. Obviously was not instant. My teenage years were rocky because being a teenager is just hard. But like in the more recent years, I think have seen it has steadied me in a way that nothing else did.
Just been a witness to them.
I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, the Bible says, honor your father and mother. It's one of the commandments. And Jesus doesn't come to abolish the law, he comes to fulfill it.
Yeah.
And so, is it the case that, okay, well, I've become a Christian, my family aren't Christians, I can just disregard what they say? What would you say to that?
I mean, I think it's a tension, isn't it? My mum is a Christian and loves the Lord, and has always wanted for me to have a good job, to earn enough money to buy a house, to not struggle in ways that maybe she has struggled before. And I know that comes from a real deep place of love. And I think when I told her I was going to do a philosophy degree, she was like, what for? Like, what job does that lead to? Yeah. There wasn't a clear...
Fair question,
what was I doing? No one knows. But yeah, there wasn't a clear, I wasn't doing medicine that was going to mean I was going to be a doctor, right? Or I wasn't doing a teaching course, which means I was going to be a teacher. And then got my job in Young Life. And to be honest, Young Life's a bit strange to understand. But I try to explain to my mum, I'm a youth worker and my heart is to tell kids about Jesus. And I run these youth clubs and take kids to summer camp. And she was like, yeah, but when are you going to get a real job? Yeah. And I was like, no, this is my real job. And I remember for a really long time, she kept sending me job applications and my heart one day is to train as a qualified counsellor. And I've kind of been delaying that as ministry has grown. And, she keeps sending me, oh, when are you going to do your master's? When are you going to do this? And I remember this one day I was having a phone call with her, and she was doing her regular spiel about why I hadn't got a real job and I wasn't going to earn enough money, all from love and worry for me. And I remember just telling her, Mum, I might not be doing the thing that earns me the most amount of money. I might not be doing the things that people expect me to do or that is perceived as successful, but I'm doing what God has called me to do. And she was silent. And I'm and I said, I'm doing what he's called me to do until he tells me not to do it anymore, and then I won't. And from then on, my mum has not questioned my job. She's not questioned my decision. Not that she fully gets it, but she is understanding the choices I've made. And I think there's a line of which we have to be obedient to God in those ways. This is where God has called me. But my duty also is to honour my mum and to see where she's coming from. Yeah. And I think part of that comes with age and time. It's learning that your parents may have made mistakes and are humans, but they love you and they are for you, particularly in those Asian values of succeed and do well. It all comes from I just don't want you to struggle like I did. And I don't think I ever learned that. I think I thought that it was control and disappointment when I was growing up. And learning that really it's because my mum cares about me and wants me to be okay. Yeah. And she wants to die one day knowing I'm fine. And so I think it's a really, really difficult line to walk. Yeah. And
I guess we're not saying that it's, straightforward just to obey our parents. I guess that's the thing. It says honor your mother and father. It doesn't necessarily say obey everything that they say. Yeah. And the scriptures are balanced in that way. And yet Jesus also said, I came to divide households. I didn't come to bring peace, which is an ironic statement. He's the man of peace, yet he says, I will bring division because of the way that the message of the gospel brings division. Yeah, I was just thinking if there's a young person who's wanting to follow Jesus and their family aren't Christians, there are going to be lots of decisions, micro decisions, big decisions on how they walk that out in an honoring way to their parents. I guess in some ways there are going to be moments, aren't there, where they're going to have to make a stand. And yet in lots of other ways, there are things that perhaps they can let go. And
I think it's knowing what hill to die on, isn't it? There are some things that are like, I'm not going to compromise on this. But some things that you're like, okay, I'll...
Well, and in every single one, doing that in a loving and respectful way. You know, I mean, the Bible does tell us to be respectful with those who don't believe and who have different beliefs. Be gentle. And that applies to our parents as well, I guess. You know, if there are those challenges and those pressures, then how do we live that out? Because in the process of wanting to follow Christ, we don't want to neglect the heart and the attitude. You know, you want to be a witness in your context.
Yeah.
And I think that's the particular challenge perhaps for those that are experiencing those kinds of pressures.
We talk about it for my teenagers a lot, but like, you know, it's all well and good sharing our faith with our friends, but actually if it doesn't match how we live, it means nothing.
Yeah,
right?
You can preach good news and be bad news in the way that you live, can't you? Yeah.
And what I'm noticing actually increasingly with young people is that they don't care about what you're saying. They care about whether it makes a difference to your life.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you are a Christian who has come from a non-Christian family or a family from a different faith background, and your life hasn't shifted, or there hasn't been a change or a lifestyle change, I mean, who's going to listen, right? No one's going to care. And I think part of the ways that my family have, you know, they might disagree with me in the comments below, but you know, I think part of it, they've noticed a shift in me that if you look at the way my life has gone, doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And where could it have come from? And not that doesn't mean they're like, yep, Jesus is real, but it has to be kind of a connect. And again, wasn't immediate transformation. It was years and years and years of actually unworking a lot of stuff in me that wasn't biblical, and unworking in me lots of things from Hinduism that actually was quite harmful, lots of things from my family that were quite harmful, things I'd learned, my own sin. I mean, tons of it, right? But
I guess as well, within all of that, you know, yes, it's a witness to the world, but actually it's a testament to the faith that we say we have. We aren't saved by our works. You cannot earn your way to a relationship with Jesus, but
thank goodness.
And thank God, because the way he's designed it is that it's by his grace. It's all a free gift. And yet, when we truly know that and have received that, and there's a conviction of our sin, we will live different. And the fruit of our lives is a testimony of what we've believed.
Yeah.
And so if we aren't seeing that transformation, and if we aren't seeing a change, and it may not all be that visible immediately, but if we aren't sensing or knowing that, then we've really got to question if we've really understood who Jesus is and the impact that he has on our lives.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a reminder for all of us, regardless of the culture, regardless of the situation we find ourselves in. To walk the way of Jesus requires transformation, and it comes by his spirit and by his power at work in us, not some kind of human effort.
Yeah.
But we do need to partner with God to see that transformation in our lives. And so that is what will bring honor, I guess, to his name as we attempt to honor our families. And it's not something that I guess we're saying is easy, but something that we're walking with. And maybe if you know, if people are listening to this that are struggling with that and don't have anyone to turn to, like, they, you know, reach out to us, because that's something we want to try and help facilitate or engage people to be part of something where they're not alone. That's one of our missional values, isn't it? That people would be family together as part of this.
Yeah. And we'd love to hear those stories, right? Of just the Lord like working in those situations, because they're encouragement to my faith and encouragement to continue like living when it's costly.
Yeah.
We need each other to do that. So I think it's really, really important.
Great. Yep. Final question. When was the last time you had a curry sandwich?
Many, many, many years ago.
Traumatized.
Yeah.
It's done.
To be fair though, I think when you move away from him, I was like, when I moved away from him, I was like, oh, thank goodness I have to eat Indian food again. And now I'm like, oh, gosh, what I would give for my mum to make me dal. Because it just doesn't taste the same when you make it. You know, when your mum makes it, it's different. Welcome to Spill the Chai.